And then another big thing part about investing in yourself is to keep that vessel full is one, I go out of my way to listen to preaching. Whether I do it audio or actually most of the time just go on YouTube or a couple other church pages of different preachers and stuff that I respect, and listen to and allow myself to be ministered to get that full, to refill that. Also, I mentioned I don't take a salary, but one thing that is worked into our bylaws of the church is that the church pays for two conferences. And what I mean by pay for is just the hotel and the registration. Everything else is me. So in order to invest in myself, and so there's two different ones that I like to go to. Of course, our district conference, and then there's a North American Missions Retreat that I like going to. We're not a NAM church. We used to be long time ago, but all of us all have similar things going on as quote unquote smaller churches, and it's a time to minister to each other and be ministered to, and they have some good teaching at those things here in Missouri, and then I'm part of the Sunday school department, which is now children's ministry. I have a hard time saying children's ministry because I still am just ingrained in Sunday school, and I get ministered to at those different things at junior camp and whatnot, even though that I'm ministering as well. But I get blessed. I mean, it's just awesome to see those kids, man. 8 to 11-year-old kids just filling the altar and crying their hearts out to God, and just knowing some of their situations. Some kids are coming from drug homes and or don't have food, and just all these horrible things, and just my heart just goes out to them. I love children, and so those different things to make sure I'm investing in myself, because as I mentioned, I have been burnt out. I have been frustrated. And there's times in ministry where your heart literally gets ripped out. That's part of the gig. You study a lot about sheep and shepherding. I mean, just straight up how to shepherd sheep books, because God always referred to us as sheep. And the funny thing about that, to me at least, is that when God calls us sheep, to know that sheep are actually really stupid animals. And so to me, that's funny, knowing that, we're sheep, but that's how we're really stupid. But as a whole, and I'm also reminded many times is that the foolishness of preaching, that we're saved, and try not to make such a big deal about ourselves, but it's important to study and invest in those things, because sheep, one thing about sheep is they bite each other. They even bite the shepherd, and it hurts. And so there's times where you need to allow stuff to brush off. People are going to say things about you negative. People are going to do that. It's going to happen. We can't take some of this stuff personal. We have to learn to brush that off and learn to have some thicker skin. And so it's just everything you can invest in yourself to help, to be able to help people. But you have to keep that vessel full. I was taught a long time ago, and I actually can't remember who told me this, probably one of my a pastor, but anyway, they said, in ministry wise, you cannot feed if you don't read. If we don't invest in ourselves in reading, and books on ministry, or counseling, all these other things, we cannot effectively feed people. You can't keep feeding them the same food over and over again. They need a diversity to help them grow and be a well-rounded disciple. We work on making disciples, not Christians, but disciples, and disciples producing disciples. And that goes with a lot of teaching, a lot of work, and it's the long game. There's nothing fast about pastoring, nothing. And people are slow. and I'm not referring to my sheep are stupid comment. People are just slow to change. People are stubborn, and it takes a while, and we need to be patient and and let God do the work. Because if we start quote unquote judging or quote unquote trying to deal with every little thing, it comes off it's not as judgmental and being talking down to people, things like that. We have no room. We are there to love people. There's people that go to our church that I don't agree with different ways that they're living. They know exactly how I stand. I'm never afraid to preach about it, but I'm not going to be condescending. And I have some people who come to church on a semi-regular basis who are drug users, people who are alcoholics, people who are living different lifestyles that the Bible completely talks against, and put it any way you want. And I've had seasoned saints complain about, well, don't you know this and this and this and this sinner, this and this sinner? I go, yeah. Church is exactly where they need to be, because any given service, any given Sunday, God can touch that person's heart and transform them. I know where I was before I came to know God. And I wasn't a big drinker or anything like that, but I was filled with anger and bitterness and hate. And I know what God has delivered me from. My wife was a full-blown alcoholic, and God delivered her from that. And who am I to say that I'm better than so-and-so? Such were some of you. And so I try my best to love people and look at people the way God does. Obviously, I'm not going to get it right all the time. That's not what I'm trying to imply. But I do my best to be loving and accepting, but make sure people know what we believe and what we preach, and that there's a better way. And just be friendly, be loving, and be full of the grace of God. Because again, I know where I came from, and I want people to feel that presence of God and that love of God, like I'm able to, and I know exactly, I know all of my shortcomings. I know all the ways that I fall short and fall short of the glory of God. And so, I'm no better than anybody else. And I want everybody to know that, there's people say, well, I got to fix myself before I come to God. That'll never happen. You're not going to fix yourself. Come to God and let God reshape you and remold you. And so, okay, I think that's enough of that rant. That's just where my heart is, man. And it's just,
right.
I'm just thankful that I had half of a brain to respond to the call of God. And I've always seen him faithful. I've always seen him take care of us. Yeah, we've suffered. Yeah, we've had hard times. Man, we've had some great times, amazing times where I'm just floored by the providence of God. And even this past Sunday, just had a full altar, people weeping in the altar, and just a lot of people touched, and we're baptizing somebody this Sunday. And it's exactly what I said, a person who, because of this person's lifestyle, and I'm not going to go into detail, but because of this person's lifestyle, he's been mistreated and not accepted at other churches. Not necessarily New Haven, but, just and looked down upon. And who are we to do that? But you know what? God touched him. And I was telling him that whenever he was weeping in repentance, saying, God is here for you. He said, if he hated you, you would not be feeling what you're feeling right now. As the tears just coming down that guy's face. Nicest guy. And I'm just thrilled to death to see what God's doing in his life, and that and he's ready. He's ready to. He calls me pastor, and that's exciting. It's just exciting to see God working. And just, if we stop pointing the finger at people and start pointing them to Christ instead of pointing down at them, down our big noses, let God be God. God will take care of it.
Well, you mentioned before, I had half a brain to go into the ministry. I think if you had had a full brain, you probably wouldn't have gone into the ministry.
Exactly.
But I've been in the same place too. I mean, I think that all of the joys and the sorrows and the victories and
Yeah.
the defeats and the tears and the joy and everything else, it points to the same thing, that we're called to do what we do.
Right.
And I think that our own self-care is vitally important.
Yes.
I think that um, one of the things that my other pastor friend that I was interviewing told me about. He said something kind of profound, and when you hear it at first, in light of everything else that we've said today, it doesn't really sound it doesn't sound right. But he told me flat out that for him, balance is not a priority.
Hmm.
And the reason for that, and he points to examples from scripture. Jesus wasn't balanced. Peter wasn't balanced. Paul wasn't balanced. John wasn't balanced.
Hmm.
You don't read in the New Testament about you read about people who sold out their entire lives to
Right.
Jesus Christ. I mean, they weren't real concerned about balance. And in case of Peter, he kind of left his wife behind and just kind of went
Yeah.
out and fulfilled the call of God. And I don't think anybody really advocates that. But what he did say is, instead of focusing on balance, he says, I focus on being present in whatever moment I find myself in. And
Hmm.
I think, obviously there's an application for us as pastors, but there's an application for other people too. And I think Steve, you alluded to this in the course of the rant, as you called it. It's one of those things. When you are ministering, you're present in your ministry. When
Yeah.
you are with your family, you're present with your family. And I think
That's
that
good.
sometimes, as pastors, and just as people with responsibility, let's put it that way,
Hmm.
so we can kind
Right.
of generalize a little bit. As people with responsibility, we in the technological age that we're in, we pride ourselves on being accessible.
Hmm.
In my previous job, when I used to manage the car service, I was on call literally 6.5 days a week. And the only time that folks would really try and leave me alone is during the times I was in church,
Right.
because they knew I pastored a church. But even, I've had to take calls in the middle of my midweek. I've had to take calls in the middle of my prayer meeting that were work related.
Mm.
And so I really have felt in the past and that kind of contributed to my own struggle with burnout as well,
Sure. Sure.
because I felt like, I'm supposed to be a pastor. I'm called into the ministry. I wasn't called to manage a car service. I was called to be in ministry. That the car service was to provide the means so that my family and I could eat. But yet
Right.
I find that this is, even when I want to be engaged in the things that um, that I know are my responsibility to take care of, in the name of being accessible, um, I just am not present. And I think that, and this is going to rub a lot of the saints the wrong way, maybe, but I think that we need to focus probably less on being accessible and more on being
Hmm.
present. And an example,
Right.
says, if you want me to be accessible, this is what my friend said. If you want me to be accessible to you at all times, that's fine. But I also have to be accessible to everybody else. So that means
Hmm.
that, if you just allow me to be present in this moment with you, having lunch or whatever,
Right.
I'll put my phone away. I won't answer any calls because I'm present with you. But if you
Hmm.
simply want me to be accessible, then I'll pick up the phone when you call. But when I'm with you, I'm going to pick up the phone when somebody else calls.
Right. Right.
You know,
Or you're with somebody and you're looking down at your phone the whole time answering all these other messages.
right?
You're not really present.
Exactly. And more than once, I've, you know, because I got the Apple Watch many years ago. Um, I'm seriously considering getting rid of it. And the reason for that is because every time that thing goes off, I'm looking at my watch. I'm doing one of these,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
and the perception that I'm giving off
Right.
is that, you know, if I'm with somebody else, that I'm trying to hurry them up, or I'm trying to push the time to be over so I can move on to something else.
Right. Right.
And I think that, you know, that's poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly, it's poisonous to anyone who's trying to minister, but even just in within the confines of human decency, you know,
Yeah.
learning how to treat people right. You know,
Yes.
if you're with someone that has asked for your time, that has scheduled your time, you
Mm-hmm.
know, whatever anybody else needs is not important. You have devoted yourself to
Right.
that person at that time, and the other thing can wait for another time, you know. And I
Right.
think that, and I listened to this and I said to myself, well, this really doesn't make any sense to me when I first listened to it, but the more that I thought about it, um, I was a little less good at my job
Mm-hmm.
when ministry began to encroach on my job.
Yeah.
But I was a lot worse at ministry when I allowed the job to encroach on the ministry. You know,
That's good.
for a period of time, I didn't feel that I was present in either one. It got to the point where one of my family members said to me, because I had been dealing with a whole bunch of work-related stress and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
saving the day and trying to be, you know, operations
Right.
manager of the year, right? And she looks at me and says, "Are you still called to be a pastor?"
Mm. Mm.
And you want to talk about, you know, when someone like a family member who has watched, had a front row seat kind of to the development
Right.
of calling and vocation, um, turn around and say, so are you, you know, to suggest that maybe you're not called,
Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
mean,
That's a hit. That's a
yeah,
hit.
yeah. And like you were saying, um, burnout, I've been there. Depression, I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety, I've been
Oh
there.
yes.
I'm still there
Yeah.
with the anxiety part of it, because, you know, the pandemic, and of course, you know my story. And
Yeah.
most of the people that watch Coffee with Pastor know this story, that I came over from Massachusetts, and so I'm far away. I've built a support system here.
Which to me is just hilarious, is that you got East Coast, drive, and the East Coast, way of thinking and acting and stuff, and you put that in Idaho.
Yeah.
It's like where people are like shocked, like, this
Well,
guy's intense.
well, it's true. I've kind of had to dial myself back a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit,
oh yeah,
and it took me a while. And we're just finishing up our first year here,
sure,
just about. Um, but it took me a while to understand. You know, these folks are not looking for me to produce, because I felt, and a lot of it was self-imposed pressure, right?
sure,
I felt that being back east in my previous district, and they're wonderful people, but I had this pressure on myself that I had to produce,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and part of it is what we do in our organization in North American Missions is, you know, we parade our North American missionaries in front of everybody, and just, you
Mm-hmm.
know, talk about how great they are, and, you know,
Right,
that you know, our North American missions director, back in Mass Rhode Island district, used to say there are heroes at home, and, you know, really talk us up, which was encouraging on one side. But on the other side, it's like, well, you know, these people are saying all these good things about you. You better produce.
right,
You know, you better show them that what
yeah.
they've invested to you is worth something. And of
Right. When
course,
you're trying to struggle to have somebody teach teach Sunday school, or you're trying to figure out how to get music done, and then all these other things, and then you got to clean the toilets. You got to, which I still clean toilets, but
Oh yeah, well, so
regardless.
do I. But then switch out and come here, and I take an established church here in Idaho, and the folks, they just want to be ministered to. They're not interested so much.
Right.
They want to see the church grow, but they're not interested
Sure.
so much in what I can do, or what
Right.
even what I can allow, um, what I can allow God to do through me. It's more
Right.
it's more of, they want it, they have a new pastor that they want to get to know. They want to be
Mm-hmm.
loved. They want to be ministered to. They
Right.
want to have their concerns heard. And for an East Coast guy like me, I had to really dial back.
Yeah.
And it's always been a struggle for me to not move too quickly in the
Sure.
ministry.
Sure.
But I've had to relearn that even more so, and slow down. And as I've shared with you offline, there are things that I'm
Mm-hmm.
dealing with in my ministry situation. Like you said,
Right.
it doesn't happen quick.
Mm-hmm.
The things that have to be taken care of or tweaked in
Right.
my ministry situation, it's not going to take. I'm not going to do it in a year or 2 years even.
Right.
In order to get to where we need to be, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that God has kind of scripted that out for all of us. I mean, whether you're in ministry or not, I mean, how God has a vision for what our lives are supposed to look like, and He has a timeline
Right.
that's much better than ours. And a lot of times we feel like, well, this is not going as fast as I want it to. This is not going,
Right.
why can't these people get it together? Well, that's not what it's
Mm-hmm.
about. It's about you and I and everyone else being faithful to the things that
Right.
God has called us to do, and to ascribe to His timetable,
Mm-hmm.
not to our timetable, as
Exactly.
painful as it must be, as
Well,
it might
especially
be
with
for us.
type A personalities. Type A personalities, we're driven and we're results driven, and we're used to making things quote unquote happen, but we can't think of it like the corporate world. It's completely different. The economic system is completely different. God's economics are way different than ours, and things happen. I mean, if He can take a little lunch and feed, well, even 10 to 12,000 people, because including the women and children, from a little boy's lunch, a couple pieces of bread and a couple fish, and then have 12 baskets remaining after feeding all those people, then God's economics is way different, and He can take care of everything. He can take care of all those little things, and we just have to wait on Him.
Exactly. When He needs to.
Yeah.
When He needs to, because He only did that once or twice
Mm-hmm.
in
Right.
the Scripture.
Right.
And we think, well, you take something like that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we put it into our kind of corporate mentality, and
Mm-hmm.
we say, well, okay, so we need to feed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fishes every
Right.
single week.
Right.
And God says, no, that's not, that
Right.
occasionally you will do that. And occasionally,
Mm-hmm.
like you've experienced and I've
Right.
experienced,
Right.
there's miracles, and there's impartations of the Holy Spirit, and you
Mm-hmm.
see the transformation that people are experiencing in their own lives, which you didn't manufacture. It came
Right. Right.
as a result of you just being faithful to what God has called you to do.
Yeah.
But I think we've gone far afield today, and that's absolutely okay. I think that for the purposes of everyone who is listening to this today, I think the big thing is, I guess I would say, to be patient and to be
Yes.
present.
Available.
Be patient and be present.
Exactly.
Available, yes, but not universally accessible, because there's some people
Right.
in
Well,
life, and
I was speaking in a way of being ready to be used by God is why I was speaking of.
oh sure, absolutely,
You're in a different way, yeah.
yeah. But the thing is, I mean, to distinguish that from accessibility,
Right.
because
Right.
there's a lot of people that want access to you that don't deserve
Hmm.
access to you.
Oh yeah.
That actually, if you give them access to you, it actually will prove to be toxic to you.
Well, yeah, and that's another whole hour and a half discussion, and lessons that I've learned the hard way of expending energy on people, casting your pearls before swine. I've learned to show love to everybody, but you're going to expend energy on the people who are willing to take that investment, no matter what stage of the walk they're in, beginning or question. Oh, see, I already see myself going on a rant. Sorry.
Yeah, we have to stop for right now. I was anticipating that that we get two topics in today, and obviously I vastly underestimated the good conversation that was going to come. But I hope that we can do this again at some point.
Oh yeah, definitely. Soon,
And
soon. I really, really enjoyed the time. I've been
yes,
missing you.
yes, and for those who are listening, as I always say, it's been great to spend this time with you. I thank Pastor Steve for his time today and
Thank you.
helping to move the conversation forward. And to all the Coffee with Pastor folks that are out there, I say, as I always say at the end of every time that we're together, if there's anything that I can do for you, my contact information is going to scroll at the end of this video. And we look forward to seeing everybody next week on Coffee with Pastor. Until then, as I always say, be safe, be well, and be blessed in Jesus' name.